Hey everyone, time for another video. So this week we're talking about The Vanishing by Wendy Webb. This had an average Goodreads rating of 3.61. I gave it 3 stars. So I feel like I've kind of entered this phase of talking about mystery novels and gothic novels, especially haunted houses. I had a bunch of books on hold at the library that ended up showing up. And then once I picked them up, I looked at them and I realized that they all were about haunted houses. And since finishing this book, I did take a day or two to kind of process my feelings about it. Since that time, I have picked up 2 other books, trying to... Because I thought, hey, I'll do a video comparing different haunted houses novels. And I feel like after I couldn't get into the other books, and I don't know if it's not being able to really effectively process more than one book of the same subgenre, or if it's that the other books just don't interest me. I'm not sure, but it's just I couldn't get into the other ones. So I may dip into a different type of book and then come back to it. But in the meantime, so I've scrapped the haunted house video idea, at least for now, and I'm just going to talk about this one. So in this book, The Vanishing, this woman Julia has pretty much fallen from grace. It turns out that her husband is a sociopath who has fleeced all of her friends and family, and scores of people. They call him the Midwestern Bernie Madoff, and he's just fleeced everyone. And then he committed suicide, and in the meantime, she's been getting hounded by the press, getting, hounded by the police, and everyone's thinking of pressing charges against her. And, there's some question about, was it suicide or not? But in the middle of all this man, Adrian, shows up and says, hey, I want you to be a companion for my mother. And she's just like, who are you? Who's your mother? Why are you coming to me? Don't you know who I am? And he's like, oh yeah, it's fine. I researched you. I know all about you, and I still want you to be a companion for my mother. And there's warning bells going off. I don't get it, but in the end, she relents, and she's like, okay, well, I don't have anything to lose, really. So the next day she leaves with this guy, and they go to a house called Havenwood. And it turns out she is going to be a companion to this famous horror author, Amaris Sinclair, who everyone thought she died 10 years before, but turns out she didn't even really fake her own death. They issued a report that she was dead. So she's been living in obscurity in this town for the previous 10 years. But the story is, there's some questions. She might be demented. She's not altogether there. I just want you to keep an eye on her. I go traveling a lot, blah, 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 whatever. And she's like, okay, cool, fine. And then Adrian leaves again, and the next day Julia opens up the paper and her house is burned to the ground. And in a picture of the smoking ruins is Adrian. So now it's like, did he set fire to my house? What just happened? And it really sets off the rest of the story. What am I doing here? Why am I really here? At one point she says, it seems like people are being too nice to me, but I can't exactly go and say, why are you being so nice to me? It's weird. And then weird stuff starts happening, and the house is very obviously haunted. But you don't really know what's going on. And I think, kind of getting into the actual review part, I really like what the author did with this. I like the first 75% of the book. Even though it has kind of like a Lifetime movie feel to it, it's... And why I say that is because there are parts that just feel so scripted and so not realistic and just so weird. Let me see if I can find one. I think there was one part where so Julia and he's not a stable boy. He's kind of like the caretaker of the manor. Drew. She and Drew really feel attracted to each other. And that's where it gets kind of like that Lifetime, somewhere between Lifetime and Hallmark. One of their movies. Where it's just like, for instance, I know the name might have been a coincidence, and the name of her sister and your great 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 aunt being the same might have been a coincidence. But when I took one look at you, I knew it was true. So you also know they were deeply in love, my great great grandmother and your great great grandfather. He ran a hand through my hair, letting it rest on my shoulder. Oh, I know that too. He was looking deeply into my eyes. Did true love find them, I wonder? I whispered. I think we can be altogether sure of that, Julia, he said, pushing me deeper into the back of the sofa and kissing me with an urgency I never... And it's just like, that part is just like, I think we can be sure. Like, okay, Hallmark. Like, I don't know. It was kind of weird. And parts of that feel like really, really awkward. And even leading up to that, there's a part, gosh darn it. I can't find it. But there's a part where, like, they start to kind of do something, and it's still, like, described very oddly, and it's set up very oddly, and, it's like thinking back on my own relationship with my husband. We've been together 10 years, and some of the stuff that they say in this book, like, I don't think my husband and I have ever said anything like that to each other. We've nothing that cheesy without, like, immediately laughing afterwards. So it's just like, it just felt somewhere between Lifetime and Hallmark. And why I throw Lifetime in there is because it is a Gothic novel, and I do think it fits the bill as a Gothic novel. So it's kind of like this impending black mass hanging over the thing, like, enjoy the relationship while it lasts, because you're about to die. So the first 75%, I do really enjoy it, except for the Hallmark Channel romance part. I do really enjoy it. The last 25%, it did feel like a race to the finish, and I couldn't decide what it felt more like. Like she was on a deadline, or like she was running out of printer paper and didn't feel like running out for more. So, and then the weird part is, like, okay, you get to the last 25%, okay, you get some sort of resolution, but it felt like in the last, like, 40 to 50 pages, she tried to throw in as many twists as she could. Like, at one point in the story, Julia's snooping and she finds a piece of paper from a psychiatric hospital saying, she's no longer in a coma, she's not violent anymore, blah, 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 whatever. And she thinks it's talking about Mrs. Sinclair. Well, towards the end, it's like, oh no, it wasn't Mrs. Sinclair that was in a mental hospital, it was you, and you were actually here 10 years ago, and blah, blah, blah. And then, they get rid of Gideon, who's kind of like the master demon in the house or whatever. They get rid of Gideon, which happened entirely too quickly. I'm sorry. Even exorcisms don't take one encounter, they take multiple. Um, Julia and Drew get together and they're talking, they're laying in bed, they go to sleep, and then she has this dream where, oh my god, the house is a husk and no one's been here for decades, and the stable never was, like, essentially she had a nightmare that everything she just dreamt was a dream, obviously. Everything that just happened was a dream. And then she wakes up and the next day is like, everything's fine again. And it just felt like, she was trying too hard at the end. And again, I don't know if it's she was trying too hard just to finish it and make a deadline, or to finish it in the requisite amount of words, while still trying to make it good. So I didn't fully enjoy the ending, and like even in the last couple of pages, it got to the point where even I was impatient for it to be over. Like, okay, just let this end already. And I feel kind of sad saying that, actually, because besides the obviously, I love to read books, and the writing style up until the end was great. And I hate when I want a book to end. But at the same time, it's like I didn't buy the ending either. Because she goes from complete disbelief to, oh my god, could it be true, to this determination of, I'm going to get rid of Gideon. And it didn't feel realistic because, not only is she going from, I don't have psychic powers, to, okay, yeah, I can talk to the dead and I'm totally going to take on this massive demon that almost killed your granddaughter. And she spends some time in the library, and I think she devotes maybe, I don't know, at most 1 to 2 pages on the research part of things. And then all of a sudden, whoop, Gideon's gone. So it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like wind blowing, people being pushed into walls. By the end of it, it's like, oh, Gideon's gone. And it's just like, I'm sorry, like, exorcisms don't even work that fast. But I'm supposed to believe that this person who 5 minutes ago didn't believe she had psychic powers at all is going to eliminate Gideon in, a single evening? Like, no. No. So, I was really disappointed in the end. I was very disappointed in the end. But the writing up until then was really, really good. I mean, I think the most terrifying part of this book was at one point, they see someone at the window, and that night, the men in the house are kind of on high alert, and they're, doing patrols around the house, just to make sure nothing gets in. And Julia does what she's not supposed to do. She's told to stay in her room, and she doesn't, because why would you? Because, let's move this book along. And she goes down to the library, and she sees Mrs. Sinclair sitting in the library, or what appears to be Mrs. Sinclair. And that scene is written so well. It's terrifying. And she describes seeing, she calls her Mrs. Sinclair, and she like, Mrs. Sinclair, it's Julia. And Mrs. Sinclair starts saying, Julie. Like really, really creepy. And she goes to stand up, and she turns around, and her dress is covered in blood. And it really gave me the creeps reading it. I think that's what disappoints me so much about the end, because Wendy Webb does have a real talent for writing. She did do really well with this book up until the ending. And then it's just like, what happened? Like, did you get lazy? Did you run out of printer paper? Like, did you have a deadline? Like, what happened to this end? Because I find it hard to believe that she felt like that was the best possible ending. And then, oh, I woke up in an abandoned house, and, no one's been here for years and decades, and what happened? And then she wakes up and she's like, oh, whatever. No. No. That's not the end. That is not the right ending. And there are certain endings, and I have a couple friends, one in particular that I'm thinking of, that will yell at a book. This is the kind of ending that my friend would yell at, because it makes no sense. It is not a good ending. It is not a proper ending. And honestly, I was thinking about this book, and this is a book that honestly, it was 286 pages. It easily could have been extended. It easily could have been a 350, 400 page book. Easily. If the author had done it right. And if the author had done her due diligence with the end. So, if it were 350, 400 pages, I would totally read it. I would still read it. I'm not intimidated by big books. And I probably would have given it 5 stars at that point. But as it stands, I could only give it 3. I didn't hate the ending enough to condemn the entire book to a 2-star rating, but it was like a weak 3. So, I did, like I said, I enjoyed the first 75%. The last 25%, I'm incredibly disappointed. So yeah, The Vanishing by Wendy Webb. You can read it. I think you would enjoy it, but the end just, it makes me so angry. It makes me so mad. It's just, no. It could have been done so much better. But anyway, so, I've recently gotten a lot of books in the mail. I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of like a race to the finish, whichever which video I'm gonna do next. I just got a book in the mail that I ordered based on an NPR story. It's called Rejection Proof. And the story was really, really, really good on NPR, talking about this guy who would go out and seek rejection. And as soon as I heard that he had written a book about it, I went online and ordered it. So that just arrived. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I have 2 other books that just arrived. One is The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, which so far I'm kind of like, I'm a lot of the terminology is throwing me off, and like all the characters that are being thrown in really quick at the beginning are throwing me off, so it's kind of hard for me to properly track everything in my mind. So I may have to shelve that for a later time. Again, I also have Girl on the Train, which I did order in accordance to you guys' recommendations. But I misplaced it somewhere, so I have to find it. I don't know, I'm like swimming in books. And then I have a couple of Haunted Houses books, which I don't know if I'm really going to finish any of them. I started one called The Starter House. And it's okay so far. It's, it's kind of like your typical haunted house story. Like, hey, we're looking for a house. We have a baby on the way. Oh, I really like that one. And real estate agents like, no, you don't want this one. Look, there's a condo up the street. Let's go to that one. It's that typical, like, lead up to a bad horror movie type thing. So far it feels like the cheap lead-in of, no, I want that one, but that one's haunted. I want that one. So I'm just, I don't know if I'm going to finish it, because, like I said, it feels like the lead-in to a really bad horror film, so we'll see. That's about it. Like I said, I'm swimming in books, but it's finding a good book, and finding a book that I'm willing to sit through and give a review for. Because some of them, like The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, like, I don't know if it's worth it for me right now to sit and push myself through it. Because I don't feel like I'm getting emotionally invested the way I should be at this point in the book. So I may have to shelve it for a while. But I also have books that I ordered from other months that I haven't gotten into yet. Like I have Life's Work. I have a bunch of books that Leslie gave me. I have chemistry. I have, like, literally, I have books all over my bureau. I have a ton of books that I ordered, but I haven't gotten to read yet. And I just got rejection proof. So we may take a break from the Gothic novels for a while and move on to other subjects. But in the meantime, let me know what you're reading. Are you reading anything good? Is there anything that you want to recommend to me? Tell me what you thought of The Vanishing if you've read it. Let me know what you thought of this review. I know it was a little meandering at times. But, tell me what you think I should read next. And until next time, readers, I hope you have a great day. I hope you guys stay safe. I know we're having some extreme weather around the country. Stay safe. Listen to your local police and National Weather Service and all that. And until next time, readers, have a good one.